Hello everyone. I'm going to be kind of sitting up close to the computer. I have a couple of pictures that I'll be showing in my presentation. So I'm going to kind of sit close so it doesn't look like I'm really far away and you can't tell what the pictures are. So today I'm going to be talking about something that's been a recent big deal in the news media here recently. That's been a big just turmoil event, and that's the Confederate flag. I'm going to be talking about why it's going to be lowered, why it's going to be done away with, but I'm going to be trying to get the audience to understand how it got misconstrued to be a flag of slavery, a flag that supports slavery, even though it's not. It was intended on just being a war flag. That's all it was. It wasn't intended for slavery, it wasn't intended to support slavery, but here we go. There were 10 causes of the Civil War in the first place, where the Confederate flag came from. And slavery being mainly 1/10 of the causes. It was mentioned in another 10th, but doesn't really go into strict detail. I'm going to be referencing the Confederate American Pride website quite a bit. It's where I saw and found most of my resources for the Civil War. I want to start off, one reason the Civil War began was tariffs. I'm going to kind of go through these a little quick. Second reason was the centralization versus state rights. Reason number 3, Christianity versus secular humanism. Number 4, cultural differences. The North and the South, they come from different places, they didn't like each other. That's enough reason for war, I would think. Number 5, control over Western territories. So, had control issues. People wanted to own more land, have dibs on more land. Number 6, Northern industrialists wanted the South's resources. They wanted to have their cotton resources. They wanted to have other things that would make them marketable, to make them stand out even more. Number 7, there was slander of the South by the Northern newspapers. This one's one of the funny ones to me. The North still had slavery. They still had it in their practices. It was still a thing. However, they were doing a very good job of sweeping it under the rug, saying that they didn't have slaves anymore, and it was gone. They still did. It was still a thing. You can't just snap your fingers and slavery's gone in all northern states. But in order to cover that up, the newspapers of the North would just bash the South, saying, well, they have slaves, it's an abomination, which it is. I mean, it's bad, but they were being pretty hypocritical, no offense to the Northerners, but being pretty hypocritical, saying that, oh, we don't have slavery and y'all are bad, bad people, when they were doing the same thing at this moment. So it's a pretty good reason to go to war. Number 8, New Englanders attempted to instigate massive slave rebellions in the South. So we're going to kind of start scratching the surface on slavery. Then number 9 is slavery. And what's funny is this website, the very first sentence it says is, indirectly slavery was a cause of the war. Indirectly. It wasn't even supposed to be a thing. It wasn't even supposed to be a reason why the war began. At this point, most Southerners didn't even own slaves. They didn't even own them anymore, but it was still somehow, if somebody else is going to be saying a bunch of bad things about you, even if it's not true, you're going to get mad, you're going to kind of get protective, and another reason to go to war. But there was, so that's number 9, and then, the pages got mixed up. And then number 10, simple aggression. The Northern aggression against the Southern states. It was proof that Abraham Lincoln wanted war may be found in the manner he handled in Fort Sumter incident. It was all about tariffs. That was the main issue. That was the main thing that caused the Civil War. Tariffs, resources, talking smack for lack of really better professional terms. So basically where I was trying to get with that part of my speech was slavery was only 1/10 of the reason why the Civil War began in the first place, and that's where the Confederate flag came from, Civil War. So I'm going to kind of briefly go through these, the flags and the designs and where they came from and where we're at today. The very first one was adopted in 1861 through 1863. It was called the Stars and Stripes, but it didn't distinguish the Stars and Stripes, if that makes sense. It didn't. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was misconstrued and it kind of similarized the American flag, which that's not what it was supposed to be, but it looked a lot like it, so that's why it only lasted for 2 years. This is the flag, similar to the United States flag. The next one was the Confederate battle flag. It had 11 states in it. It had South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, Kentucky, Missouri. And whoops, there's that flag. And then we go on to the next flag. Is the second official flag of the Confederacy, adopted in 1863. We added 4 more states to it: Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina. Efforts to secede failed in Kentucky and Missouri, though. These states were represented by 2 of the stars. So, and the reason why this flag didn't last long was there's a lot of white. White equals surrender. You don't want to surrender, not if you're trying to fight for what you believe in, so they got rid of that one. The next one is basically the same design. They added a red bar to it. Oops. It lasted for a short time. It came about on 1865, but it didn't last that long. The last the last Confederate flag, what we see in today's times, is the Confederate Navy Jack. It started in 1863, and it's the flag that we see today and that we all know. It has all kind of nicknames: Stars and Bars, Rebel Flag, what have you. And those are misconstrued nicknames for it as well. The flag itself, what it represented was just a flag. It was just a flag for war. It was just a flag to it was like a unification. Everybody who was the South knew that that was their flag, and that's what they represented. It's kind of like having a team jersey. You're all part of that team. The KKK, all the slavery, all the cults, they took that flag and they misconstrued it. They didn't even know what it represented in the first place. They saw rebel flag, went with it, got the 1/10 of why the war started, and blew it up. So now that's why you have a lot of the southern states saying, hey, we don't need to have this with our flag anymore, which, whatever they feel is best. But if you dig through the history and you look at everything that it represents, slavery was only 1/10 of that. So I hope that I was able to shed a little insight on the Confederate flag, what it represents. It doesn't represent slavery, it doesn't represent rebellion, it represents just a war flag. So I hope that helped a little bit if anybody was confused, and thank you for listening to my speech.